Well, let's work on this part in two different sections. Let's first deal with this one. I'm going to switch to face mode and hit the L key and select that. Then I'm also going to select these cylinders here. And let's just work on this. So to isolate this, beyond what we've already done with the slash key on the numpad, I'm going to press Shift H to hide everything that isn't selected. So now we just have this one piece. I'll go ahead and go back to solid mode here. And I think what we can do is maybe just split this out. Well, we know we want to create seams on these corners, but first actually let's get rid of these faces on the back here. Let's delete those. Yeah, there we go. And then let's grab these corners. I'll go ahead and mark a seam here. And let's mark seams here as well. So we have those corners there. Now what let's do is break these extrusions out. I'll just select this and this and this. And let's mark a seam here. We're going to need a seam up here, but maybe what we could do is just create a seam right here. And that will break out the bottom part and leave the top and the sides as one piece. So let's try it. I'll go ahead and do the same thing down here now. Selecting all of these. And let's select this. There we go. So let's mark these seams. Now, for the bolts here, what we could do actually is just select one edge somewhere along the side like this. And then what we could do is select edges around here, all but one. And so it'll break all of that out and kind of open it up at that point. So let's try this. Let me show you what I mean on this one. Let's just select these. And then I'll break these out like that. And let's just select that one bolt. I'll hit the L key. And let's press U and unwrap. And see what I mean? This is still connected here. It's just kind of open that up while still being all connected. It's not completely necessary, but it's a fun little trick. Let's go ahead and select that as well and hit U and unwrap. That looks pretty good. Yeah, let's just go ahead and do the same thing with this bolt. In fact, what let's do is let's just take that and delete it, and then we'll just grab that and we'll duplicate it and move it in the Z-axis down to here like that. Now, let's select everything, press U and unwrap, and there we go. So that's everything we need for that. Let's now press Alt-H to bring everything back. And now let's go through the same process with this. Let's just select this. And let's press Shift-H. And I can kind of remember what we did here. We selected these edges all around here. This is fairly similar to the ones we've already done. I selected these, I believe, all the way around here. Let's hit Alt and click there. Mark those seams. Let's get this and this. Mark those, and then let's also, let me turn off that move gizmo, and then let's get all these, and let's get all these here. Oh, and also I got these edges in here. I will Alt-click these and add seams to those, like this. Now let's try this. Let's hit L, U, and unwrap. Yep. That looks about like it. All right. So let's press Alt-H to bring everything else back. And there it all is. Now, what we can do, let's go back to this layout view. What we can do is go ahead and just duplicate this and use it for these. Instead of going through and re-UV mapping all of this, I'll just hit L and L here. Let's delete those here, and let's just duplicate. Sometimes it's just easier to duplicate than to recreate the UV mapping. I'll duplicate here, and let's spin it around the x-axis, RX180, and then let's just move this into place right here. Okay, so we've got those now. What else? Well, while we're dealing with things on this side here, let's go ahead and work on the steps and these hooks here. So let's go back to our UV editing screen layout. Let's hit the division key to bring everything else back. And now what we can do is with this selected, let's go ahead and hit the division key again, and that isolates this. All right, so now what let's do is go ahead and get rid of the mirror modifier, and let's work on this. So if we tab into edit mode, let me hit the L key and hit the period key to zoom in. So for this, I think we just need to add our edges here again. We already have the back removed, that's good. So I'll just add some seams on the corner edges again. And then I'll just split this piece out right here. Let's just break this off completely, like that. Let's also, on the inside, let's select this edge, and let's mark seams here and that edge right up there so that it will lay out flat instead of circular. So I'll mark seam there. And then, well, I guess we could just go ahead and do this. We can add seams here and here, right here. Okay, let's try this. Now let's hit the L key. Press U and unwrap. All right, well, let's try conformal, and we're not really seeing any difference at all. And when we have this kind of oval shape here, what does that tell us? When we have a round shape here, it tells us that we need to apply our scale, right? So let's press Control A and apply the scale. Let's come back and try that again. There we go. That looks a lot better. And ultimately what we'll do is we'll just delete this and duplicate it and move it over. But first, before we do that, let's work on this other part of the object here. For the steps, I think what we could do is just select edges on the back here, like this, and mark that seam. And then we'll get the seams on the corners. Oops, I marked them sharp. Let's mark a seam instead. There we go. And here, and let's do the same thing on this. I'll just select that face and mark a seam for those edges, and then mark a seam over here, like that. All right, let's test these out. I'll hit L, and let's hit U and unwrap. Yeah, those look pretty good. Okay, so now well, let's look at these things right here. It looks like they've got faces in the back, and we don't need those there. Let's get those out of there, because once again, we don't want to go through the trouble of UV mapping something that isn't going to be seen. Now, did we delete the faces on the front here that go into the steps? Let's see, I'll just hit G and move that up. And yeah, we did, so that's a hollow thing. Well, that's good, so if we hit Control Z to go back there, what we can do then is just create one seam right there. Let's just try this. And what that should do is just open it up at that seam and lay it out flat. Let's see if that worked. I'll select these three, hit U and unwrap, and sure enough, so that just lays them out flat like that. All right, so we can also do that with these tubes. Same kind of thing. If these are actual tubes that are hollow in the center, did I do that for these? Let's see. Let me hit the period key, and let's just move this down and see. Yep, sure enough, that's hollow. So let me Control Z and move that back. So what we should be able to do is just select an edge here at the bottom, and let's just mark a seam there. And that should allow us to open those up as well. Let's give it a try. There, and let's hit U and unwrap. Yeah, there we go. So if I select one of these, you can see there it is. Now, can we do that with these tubes as well? We could probably just select an edge, alt-click right here, and select an edge on the bottom. And I bet you that'd work. Let's give it a try. So let's do that. Let me just select one of these and give it a test. Let's hit U and unwrap. Yeah, that works pretty well. There's a little bit of stretching here on what I assume is that bend there. We could try conformal. I actually like angle-based a little bit better there, yeah. All right, so we've got all of those. Let's go back to our layout and let's go ahead and duplicate this piece right here. So let's get rid of this with the L key, X, and delete faces. And then what we can do is just grab this, duplicate it with Shift D and Y and drag it over here and put it right there. Okay. Let's just make sure this is all the way we want it to be. Let's hit A, U, and unwrap. And there we go. Yeah, I think that works out pretty well. All right, let's bring everything back. Let's hit the division key again. And in the next video, what let's do is begin working on these pieces here and the windows and this up here. So that's coming up next.